There are moments in your life that don't fully belong to anything. A quiet pause after you speak. A stillness before something changes. A feeling you cannot name, yet cannot ignore. You may not notice it at first. Most people don't. Life moves quickly and attention is always pulled toward what is obvious, what is loud, what is certain, what feels complete. But there are moments that feel suspended, as if something is quietly unfolding behind what you can see. Think about the last time you were waiting for an answer. Not just waiting, but truly caught in that space where nothing has arrived yet. You check your phone. You replay conversations in your mind. You try to predict what will happen next, but beneath all of that, there is a strange stillness. What is that moment? Is it simply empty time? Or is it something else, something that carries weight even if you cannot explain it? Ibn Arabi once pointed to a reality most people pass through without ever recognizing. He described a subtle dimension woven into existence itself, not something distant, not something reserved for the afterlife, but something present in every transition you experience. A space that is not fully one thing and not yet another. You feel it when a chapter of your life ends but the next one has not begun, when something leaves your hands yet nothing replaces it, when certainty dissolves and clarity has not arrived. It is uncomfortable, and maybe that is why you try to escape it. You rush to fill silence with noise. You search for answers before questions have settled. You move forward too quickly, afraid of what might surface if you remain still. But what if this space is not meant to be avoided? What if the moments you try to skip are the very moments where something essential is taking shape? There is a reason why some pauses feel heavier than others, why certain delays stay with you longer than expected, why some transitions leave an imprint, even when nothing visible has happened. Because something is happening. Not on the surface, not in a way that can be measured, but somewhere deeper, where change begins before it becomes visible. You have felt this before. That moment just before you understand something important, but can't quite reach it yet. That silence after a prayer when no answer comes, but something inside you shifts anyway. That strange awareness when life slows down, as if it is asking you to notice something you usually ignore. What are these moments trying to show you? And why do they appear right when you feel most uncertain? Maybe they are not interruptions. Maybe they are invitations. Invitations to pause, to observe, to recognize that not everything in life is defined by clear beginnings and clear endings. Some of the most important parts of your life exist in places that have no name. And the truth is, you are not outside of these moments. You are living inside them. Right now, even as you listen, there is a space between each word, a silence carrying meaning that cannot be spoken. There is a gap between your thoughts where something deeper quietly exists. You have always been moving through these spaces, but you have never stopped to truly see them. So what if the uncertainty you feel is not confusion, but a sign? What if this quiet, unnoticed space you keep passing through is where your life is actually being shaped? And if that is true, then what exactly is this space you've been living in all along? Most people have heard the word before, but only in one context. They associate it with what comes after death, a distant stage, a waiting period, something far removed from daily life, something that belongs to another world, not this one. But what if that understanding is only a fragment? What if the meaning is much closer and much more immediate than you've been taught to believe? The insight that Ibn Arabi brought forward was not about a distant realm alone. It was about a pattern woven into everything you experience. Not a location, not a time-bound stage, but a principle that quietly governs how existence holds together. Think about something simple. The moment just before dawn. It is not night anymore, yet it is not fully day. The darkness begins to soften, but the light has not completely taken over. You stand in a state that carries both, without fully becoming either. Or consider your breath. There is an instant, so brief you rarely notice, when the inhale has ended and the exhale has not yet begun. A subtle pause, a turning point, a place where one movement dissolves and another is about to emerge. What is that instant? Is it nothing, or is it a space that holds both directions at once? This is where the deeper understanding begins to unfold. There are moments in your life that cannot be defined by one condition or the other. They do not belong to clear categories. They resist simple labels. You are no longer who you were, but you are not yet who you are becoming. You have left something behind, but what lies ahead has not revealed itself. And in that state, you feel something unfamiliar. A kind of tension, a kind of openness, a kind of uncertainty that refuses to settle. Why does that feeling exist? Because life is not built only on opposites. It is also built on the spaces that allow those opposites to meet without collapsing into each other. If everything were completely separate, nothing would ever connect. If everything were completely merged, nothing would remain distinct. So something else is required. A subtle layer that allows both separation and connection to exist at the same time. A reality that does not cancel differences, but holds them in balance. This is the meaning that Ibn Arabi pointed toward. Not something abstract, not something distant, but something you are already moving through, again and again. Have you ever noticed how the most important changes in your life don't happen in clear, defined moments? They happen in phases where nothing seems certain. When you're waiting, when you're unsure, when you feel suspended between what was and what could be. Why do these moments feel so uncomfortable? Because they cannot be controlled in the usual way. You cannot rush them. You cannot fully understand them while you are inside them. You cannot label them clearly. And yet, they are often the moments where everything begins to shift. A decision forms slowly before it becomes clear. A new direction takes shape before you can see it. A realization grows quietly before it reaches the surface. So what if these moments are not empty at all? What if they are not gaps in your life, but the very places where transformation is happening? Look closely at your own experience. There are times when nothing seems to be moving, yet something inside you is changing. Times when the outer world feels paused, but your inner world is quietly rearranging itself. What is that process? Where is it taking place? And why does it feel like you are standing in a space that belongs to neither the past nor the future? Maybe because you are. Maybe the moments you call uncertain are actually precise. Maybe what you call delay is not absence, but preparation. And if this subtle space appears in your breath, in the rhythm of day and night, in the turning points of your life, then a deeper question begins to emerge. If this principle shows itself in the smallest moments you experience, could it also be shaping something far greater? Could it be that this quiet, undefined space is not just part of your life, but part of how all of reality is held together? If you look carefully, the pattern you've been noticing in your own life does not stop at your personal experience. It extends outward, far beyond your thoughts, far beyond your body, into the very structure of existence itself. What you see around you feels solid, stable, defined. The ground beneath your feet, the sky above you, the objects you touch, everything appears complete, as if it simply exists on its own. But is it truly as fixed as it seems? Or is it something far more delicate, something constantly held in a subtle balance you rarely notice? Ibn Arabi described creation in a way that challenges how you normally see the world, not as something independent, not as something separate, but as something that exists through a continuous connection, something sustained moment by moment. Think about a reflection in a mirror. When you look into it, you clearly see an image. It has form, it has detail, it appears real, but if you reach out to touch it, there is nothing there. Is it real or is it not? It is not false, but it is not independent either. It depends entirely on something else. In the same way, the world you experience has presence. It can be seen, touched, measured, but it does not exist in isolation. It is not self-sustaining. It is held in a state that is neither absolute independence nor complete absence. It exists in a kind of delicate middle. This is why everything around you is constantly changing. Nothing stays fixed. The sky shifts from light to darkness. Seasons move without asking for permission. Your own life transforms in ways you cannot fully predict. Even what feels permanent slowly reveals its impermanence. Why? Because what you call stable is actually a continuous transition, a process that never stops moving. You are not standing in something frozen in place. You are standing inside something that is unfolding, moment by moment. And yet, despite this constant movement, there is also order. Things do not collapse into chaos. They do not lose all form. There is structure, there is rhythm, there is balance. How can both be true at the same time? How can something be constantly changing and yet still appear stable? Because it is being held between two realities. Not fully fixed, not completely dissolving, but maintained in a precise state that allows both continuity and transformation. This is not something distant from you. You are already interacting with it. Every time you try to hold on to something, you feel how it slips away. Every time you resist change, you feel how life continues moving anyway. Every time you expect certainty, you are reminded that nothing remains exactly as it was. What does that tell you? That what you are living inside is not a static world, but a living process. A process that never fully settles into one condition. Have you ever wondered why you cannot freeze a moment, no matter how much you want to? Why even your happiest experiences pass? Why even your hardest moments eventually shift? Because nothing is meant to stay at one extreme. Everything is carried through a state that allows movement without collapse. And that is why life feels the way it does. Unpredictable at times, certain at others, but never completely one or the other. If everything were fixed, there would be no growth. If everything were unstable, nothing could exist long enough to be experienced. So existence itself is sustained in a careful balance. A balance that allows things to appear, change, and continue, without fully becoming permanent and without disappearing entirely. And when you begin to see this, something changes in how you understand your own life. You stop expecting things to stay the same. You stop fearing change in the same way. You begin to recognize that movement is not a flaw. It is part of how reality is designed. But this realization leads to something deeper. If the world around you exists in this delicate state, if everything you see is part of this ongoing transition, then what about you? Are you something fixed within this moving world? Or are you yourself part of this same pattern? And if you are, then what does that mean for who you really are? When you begin to see this pattern in the world around you, something deeper starts to unfold. It is no longer just about how things exist. It becomes about how you exist. Because you are not standing outside of this movement, observing it from a distance. You are part of it. You are shaped by it. In many ways, you are a living example of it. Think about your own body for a moment. It feels like something solid, something that belongs entirely to you. But if you look closely, you begin to notice something subtle. Your body is not closed off from the world. It is constantly exchanging with it. You breathe in what was outside and it becomes part of you. You breathe out what was inside and it returns to the world. Where does one end and the other begin? That boundary is not as clear as it seems. Your skin feels like a line that separates you from everything else, but it also connects you. Through it, you feel warmth, pressure, texture. It is not only a barrier, it is a point of contact. Your eyes receive light from the outside, but the experience of seeing happens within you. What you perceive is not purely external and not purely internal. It emerges where both meet. So where does your experience actually take place? Not entirely outside, not entirely inside, but in a subtle meeting point that belongs to neither fully. This is not just about the body. It is also how your life unfolds. You often think of yourself as someone moving through time, from past to future. But if you pause and reflect, you realize something else. The person you were yesterday is no longer here. The person you will become tomorrow has not yet arrived. So who are you right now? You exist in a moment that cannot be fixed, a moment that is constantly shifting, even as you try to hold on to it. You are not a finished version of yourself. You are in motion. You are in transition. You are standing in a space where something is always ending, and something else is quietly beginning. This is why certain periods in your life feel confusing. You outgrow something, habits, relationships, ways of thinking, but the new version of you has not fully formed yet. You feel caught in between, not comfortable with what you left behind and not settled in what lies ahead. Why does that feel so uncomfortable? Because you are trying to define yourself in a moment that refuses to be defined. You want clarity, you want stability, you want something you can hold onto and say, "This is who I am." But what if that need itself is the source of your discomfort? What if you are not meant to become something fixed, but to move through stages that cannot be fully captured in a single identity? There are moments in your life when everything seems uncertain. A decision is approaching, but not yet clear. A path is forming, but not yet visible. A change is happening, but not yet complete. And in those moments, you feel lost. But are you truly lost? Or are you standing exactly where you are meant to be? Because every transformation begins in a space like this. Not in certainty, not in clarity, but in a quiet state where things are still taking shape. Think about a time when your life changed in a way you didn't expect. Before that change became clear, there was a period where nothing made sense, a period where you questioned everything, a period where you felt suspended, unable to go back but not yet able to move forward. At the time, it felt like confusion. But looking back, you see something different. That space was not empty. It was forming something. It was preparing you. It was reshaping how you think, how you see, how you respond. And yet, while you were inside it, you could not recognize it. Why? Because these moments are not meant to be understood while you are passing through them. They are meant to be lived. There is a quiet intelligence in how life unfolds, an order that does not always reveal itself immediately. You experience the process first, and only later begin to understand it. So the next time you find yourself in a moment where nothing feels settled, where you are unsure, uncertain, suspended, pause for a moment. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask something else. What is taking shape here that I cannot see yet? Because maybe this space you are standing in is not a mistake. Maybe it is not something to escape. Maybe it is the very place where your life is being shaped, in ways you will only understand later. And if that is true, then the question is no longer how to avoid these moments. The question is, how do you begin to see them differently? There are parts of your life you move through too quickly. Not because they are unimportant, but because they feel uncomfortable. Waiting, for example. You send a message and watch the screen. No reply. Minutes stretch longer than they should. Your mind begins to fill the silence, assumptions, doubts, imagined outcomes. You feel a subtle tension rising as if something is incomplete. But what exactly is incomplete? Is it the situation, or your ability to remain inside it? Think about how often you try to escape moments like this. You distract yourself. You scroll. You look for something to fill the gap, anything to avoid sitting with that quiet, unsettled feeling. But what if that moment is not empty? What if it is not just nothing happening? What if something is unfolding in a way you cannot measure? There are many moments like this in your life. The silence after a conversation that didn't go as expected. The pause after making a heartfelt prayer when no answer comes. The space between leaving something behind and finding what comes next. These are not dramatic events. They don't look important from the outside. But they carry a certain weight, don't they? A feeling that something is suspended. A sense that you are standing in a place that has no clear direction yet. Why do these moments feel so heavy? Because they remove the illusion of control. You cannot force an outcome. You cannot skip ahead to clarity. You cannot resolve what has not yet revealed itself. And so you call it delay. You call it uncertainty. You call it confusion. But what if those labels are incomplete? What if what you are experiencing is not absence, but preparation? Think about a time when you were waiting for something important, a result, an opportunity, an answer that felt like it would change everything. At the time, that waiting felt like an obstacle. But later, when things became clear, you realized something. That period of waiting changed you. It adjusted your expectations. It refined your understanding. It prepared you in ways you did not recognize while you were inside it. So was it truly empty time? Or was it a stage of your life that carried its own purpose? There is a pattern here. The moments you try to escape are often the moments doing the deepest work. Not on the surface, but within you. Quietly, gradually, without announcement. Consider another moment. After something ends, a relationship, a job, a phase of your life, there is a brief period where everything feels unfamiliar. The old structure is gone, but the new one has not taken shape yet. You feel disoriented. You look for stability, but it is not there. So you rush. You try to replace what was lost. You try to regain a sense of certainty as quickly as possible. But what if that space was never meant to be rushed? What if it was meant to be experienced? Because in that space, something is happening that cannot occur when everything is settled. You are being reoriented. Your attachments are loosening. Your perspective is shifting. Your sense of self is quietly being redefined. And yet, because nothing visible is happening, you assume nothing is happening at all. Why do you trust only what you can see? Why do you measure progress only by what is obvious? There are processes in your life that do not reveal themselves immediately. They unfold beneath the surface. They require stillness. They require patience. They require you to remain present, even when you do not understand. And this is where most people struggle. Not with difficulty itself, but with the space where meaning has not yet appeared. Because it demands something uncomfortable. Trust. Trust that something is forming, even when you cannot see it. Trust that what feels like delay is not necessarily denial. Trust that clarity will come, but not always on your timeline. Have you ever noticed how the most meaningful changes in your life only make sense in hindsight? When you look back, you can trace the path. You can see how each moment led to another. You can understand why things happened the way they did. But while you were living through it, none of it was clear. Why is that? Because understanding is not always meant to come immediately. Sometimes you are asked to move through a moment without full clarity, not as a punishment, but as a way of shaping something deeper within you. So the next time you find yourself in a moment that feels empty, a moment you are tempted to rush past, pause. Notice the feeling instead of escaping it. Ask yourself, what if this moment is not a gap in my life, but a part of it? What if this waiting is not wasted, but necessary? Because maybe what you call nothing happening is actually the quiet space where everything is being prepared. And if that is true, then what does it mean for how you see the moments you are living right now? There is a place within you that does not follow the rules of logic. It does not choose one side and reject the other. It does not demand certainty before it allows you to feel. It holds things that seem impossible to hold together. You have experienced this, even if you have never named it. Moments where you feel gratitude, and yet something still aches inside you. Moments where you feel hopeful, while a quiet fear lingers beneath the surface. Moments where you know something is right, but you cannot fully explain why. How can these opposite feelings exist at the same time? How can you feel both peace and restlessness, clarity and confusion, closeness and distance? If you try to understand this only with your mind, it feels like a contradiction. But within you, it feels real. It feels natural. Because there is a part of you designed to hold what the mind cannot resolve. Ibn Arabi spoke of this inner space as something central to your spiritual experience, not as a concept to analyze, but as a reality to recognize. A place where opposites do not cancel each other, but coexist. Think about a moment when you deeply wanted something. You raised your hands, you asked sincerely, and you felt a strong sense of longing. But at the same time, there was another feeling present. A quiet acceptance. A sense that even if things did not unfold the way you hoped, there was still a larger wisdom at work. How can both of these exist together? How can you ask and accept at the same time? Because there is a deeper balance within you that allows both to be present without conflict. This is not confusion. It is capacity. The ability to hold more than one truth at once. The ability to feel without needing immediate resolution. The ability to remain present even when things do not fully make sense. This is where many people struggle. They try to force clarity too quickly. They try to remove doubt, eliminate uncertainty, resolve every tension immediately. But in doing so, they lose something important. They lose the depth that comes from allowing a moment to exist as it is. Have you ever noticed how some of the most meaningful experiences in your life are the ones you cannot fully explain? A moment of connection that goes beyond words. A feeling of calm that appears without reason. A sense of guidance that does not follow logic, yet feels undeniable. Where do these experiences come from? They do not come from analysis alone. They emerge from a place within you that is able to receive without forcing understanding. A place that does not rush to conclusions. A place that remains open. And yet, this same place is also where you feel your deepest struggles. The weight of uncertainty. The tension of waiting. The pull between holding on and letting go. Why does it feel so intense? Because this is where your life is being balanced. Not by removing one side, but by allowing both to exist in a way that transforms you. You begin to realize something subtle. You do not need to resolve every contradiction immediately. You do not need to choose one feeling and reject another. You do not need to fully understand a moment in order to live through it. Sometimes the growth happens precisely because you are holding both sides at once, because you are allowing yourself to remain in a state that is not fully defined. And in that state, something begins to shift. Your reactions slow down. Your need for control softens. Your awareness deepens. You start to listen more carefully, not just to what is happening around you, but to what is happening within you. And slowly, a different kind of clarity begins to emerge. Not the clarity that comes from having all the answers, but the clarity that comes from being at ease within the question itself. Have you ever experienced that? A moment where you stop fighting the uncertainty, and instead you become present within it. What changes in you when you do that? What becomes visible when you stop trying to force a conclusion? Because maybe the purpose of these moments is not to be solved immediately. Maybe they are meant to be felt, to be lived, to be understood gradually in a way that unfolds over time. And if that is true, then the question is no longer how to eliminate these tensions. The question becomes, can you stay present in a moment that holds more than one truth? Can you allow yourself to exist in a space where opposites meet without needing to escape it? Because when you begin to do that, something in your life starts to change, and the way you move through the world is no longer the same. Once you begin to recognize these spaces in your life, something subtle starts to shift. You don't necessarily change what is happening around you, but you begin to change how you move through it. Before you rushed. You wanted answers quickly. You wanted certainty immediately. You wanted every moment to feel clear and resolved. But now something slows down. You start to notice the pause before you respond to someone, that brief moment where you could react, but instead you remain still. What happens in that pause? Have you ever felt how different your response becomes when you don't rush it? There is a kind of awareness that appears when you give yourself even a second longer, a clarity that was not there before, a response that feels more grounded, more intentional. Where did that come from? Not from force, not from overthinking, but from allowing yourself to remain present in that small, often ignored space. The same happens in other moments. When you feel overwhelmed, your instinct may be to escape, to distract yourself, to push the feeling away. But if you pause even briefly, something changes. The feeling does not disappear, but your relationship to it shifts. You are no longer completely inside it. You are observing it while still experiencing it. And in that subtle shift, there is space. A space where you are not controlled by what you feel, and not disconnected from it either. Have you noticed this before? That moment when you are aware of your emotions, but not overwhelmed by them. That moment when you are present with your thoughts, but not lost in them. This is where your experience begins to transform. Not because life becomes easier, but because you are no longer reacting automatically. You are responding consciously. And that changes everything. You begin to see that not every moment requires immediate action. Not every silence needs to be filled. Not every uncertainty needs to be resolved instantly. Not every question demands an immediate answer. Some moments are meant to be observed, to be experienced fully without interference. And when you allow that, something opens. You start to notice patterns you didn't see before. You begin to understand situations more deeply, not just on the surface, but from within. You realize that when you rush through a moment, you miss what it is trying to show you. But when you remain present, even for a little longer, something reveals itself. It could be a clearer perspective. It could be a calmer response. It could be a deeper understanding that was not available before. This is not about controlling life. It is about aligning with how it unfolds. Instead of pushing forward constantly, you begin to move with awareness. Instead of resisting uncertainty, you begin to sit with it. Instead of trying to force clarity, you allow it to emerge. And slowly, this changes the way you live. You become less reactive, less rushed, less dependent on immediate answers. Not because you have solved everything, but because you have learned to remain present, even when things are not fully clear. And this presence carries something powerful. It allows you to act with intention instead of impulse. It allows you to listen instead of assuming. It allows you to move forward without needing everything to be perfectly defined. Have you ever experienced how different life feels when you are not rushing through it? When you are not constantly trying to get somewhere else, but are fully present where you are? What changes in your decisions? What changes in your relationships? What changes in how you see your own path? Because when you begin to live this way, something becomes clear. You are not stuck in uncertainty. You are moving through a space that is shaping you. And the more aware you become of it, the less you feel the need to escape it. You begin to trust it, not blindly, but through experience, through noticing how things unfold when you give them time, through recognizing that clarity often comes, not when you force it, but when you allow it. And gradually, a deeper realization begins to form. You are not waiting for life to become clear. You are learning how to live within the moments that are still unfolding. And once you understand that, you start to see something you never noticed before. You were never outside of this process. You were always inside it. You were always moving through it. You just didn't know how to recognize it. But now you are beginning to see. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. At some point, something becomes clear. Not suddenly, not all at once, but quietly, as if it was always there, waiting to be noticed. You begin to see that these moments you once resisted, the pauses, the uncertainty, the transitions, were never interruptions in your life. They were your life. You were not stepping in and out of these spaces. You were moving through them constantly, from one moment to the next, from one version of yourself to another, from what was known to what is still unfolding. And yet, for so long, you thought life would begin once things became clear, once decisions were made, once outcomes were certain, once everything settled into place. But has it ever truly settled? Or has it always been shifting, quietly, continuously, without asking for your permission? Look back for a moment. Every phase of your life that felt complete eventually changed. Every moment you thought would last moved on. Every version of yourself that felt final transformed into something else. So where was the stability you were searching for? Was it ever in something fixed? Or was it in something deeper, something that remained present even as everything else changed? Maybe the stability you were looking for was never in controlling outcomes. Maybe it was in learning how to remain present while everything moves. Because when you stop trying to hold life still, something opens. You begin to experience moments differently. The uncertainty you once feared starts to feel like space. The waiting you once resisted starts to feel meaningful. The transitions you once rushed through start to reveal their purpose. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because your relationship with it changes. You no longer demand that every moment gives you immediate answers. You begin to trust that understanding unfolds in its own time. You no longer see pauses as empty. You begin to recognize them as part of a process you cannot always see, but can learn to feel. Have you noticed how different a moment feels when you stop trying to escape it? When you allow yourself to stay, even without clarity? There is a kind of quiet awareness that begins to grow. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. You start to sense that you are exactly where you need to be, even if you don't fully understand why. And that realization changes something fundamental. You stop measuring your life only by visible progress. You stop defining your path only by clear outcomes. You begin to value the spaces in between, the moments where things are forming, even if they have not yet appeared. Because now you see what you could not see before. You see that life is not a series of fixed points. It is a continuous movement, a flow that carries you from one state to another without ever fully stopping. And within that movement, there is a quiet consistency, not in things staying the same, but in the way everything unfolds. And within that unfolding, you are always present. You are not waiting for your life to begin. You are not standing outside of it, watching it happen. You are already inside the moment where everything is taking shape. Right now, in this breath, in this pause, in this very awareness. You are not between your past and your future as something incomplete. You are in the exact place where both meet, where what is past no longer holds you, and what is coming has not yet limited you. A space that is open, a space that is alive, a space that is quietly shaping everything you will become. So the question is no longer whether these moments exist. You have seen them. You have felt them. You have lived through them again and again. The question is something else now. When you find yourself in a moment that feels uncertain, when you feel suspended between what was and what will be, will you rush past it like before? Or will you pause and recognize it? Because maybe this space you once ignored is the very place where your life is unfolding. Have you ever experienced a moment in your life that felt uncertain, but later revealed a deeper meaning? If something came to your mind, share it in the comments. Your reflection might help someone else see their own moment differently. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to Voice of Sufism, and turn on the bell so you don't miss future reflections. And if you want to continue this journey, explore the next video appearing on your screen. It may help you see something in your life you haven't noticed yet.